So as you might have noticed here, so for example, this perform login is a generic action of our front-end application, or also submit review is more or less generic, where we could also pass the actual rating, the selected book, and the review title and content. Having these methods here as private methods for just this test works if you just have a single test. But once your application grows and you want to write further web tests and also want to reuse these steps, this private methods here limits you from reusing these steps. And you don't want to copy all these steps here over and over, because for the same application, the login step should be the same. And that's why we will now refactor this test to now make use of the page object pattern and have reusable page objects that we interact with during our web tests that can be then shared across multiple tests. So therefore, let's copy the existing test. So we will then actually have two web tests in place, but one called review creation. Let's call it page objects. So then we will see the difference between those two approaches. The first thing we will do now here is, as we have now this test containers approach, we can now easily plug a different browser. So here we want to make use of Firefox. So this page object tests now runs the test using Firefox. So we then have two verifications for at least Firefox and Selenium. And to now get rid of these sequential methods here, let's first remove them. So also the assert not null we don't need. The open should also not happen here. Let's get rid of these. The create book here still remains. So for each test here, we require a book to be present inside the database. So, but what we can do to make it more explicit, for now only this test needs a book. If you would have multiple tests here where not every test requires a book to be present, it's better to put it inside the test method. And what I've already prepared inside our source test Java folder, here I have created a new package called pages. And within here I have modeled all our different pages that are involved for our web test. So we will start with the dashboard page. So this is a simple Java class, which for now has one public method called open. So we can then construct an instance of this page object and then use Selenite to open the browser at this specific path. So the root URL of our application will be our dashboard page. And then we also return the same object. So we can then later on, if there would be multiple operations on the dashboard page, add further methods down here, which we can then also chain together to perform several actions on the dashboard page. So this is everything for the dashboard page. For the login page, we have also just one method here, but now we make it possible to pass the user and the password from outside. So if you would write another web test, for example, where you want to make sure that Duke can delete reviews, but Mike is not able to delete reviews, you might want to log in during your web test with either Mike or Duke. That's why you can pass it here from outside, and again this page then returns the page itself, so you can chain multiple operations together and here encapsulate the logic for performing the login. And users of this page object here just have to call this method and don't care about how the login is performed in detail, because if your application logic might change in the future and you use another identity provider, you only have to adjust this single place. Having this login logic spread across multiple web tests won't allow this, and you would need more manual effort to use a new identity provider or a new login mechanism. Next, we come to the new review page. So here there is now also just one public method. Here we have a method to submit a review. So you could also split this submit review process to further smaller methods where you first say fill in the review title, then select the rating, but I've combined them all to just one method. And here we also make it more dynamic as we accept the review title, the review content, the selected book, and the rating has an integer from outside, and then we'll reuse them inside to fill in the input fields. And the last page that is included inside our web test flow here is the review list page. So this is this all reviews page where we will see all our reviews that are part of our application. And here we have one verification method, so to say, that makes sure that the review title and the review content we pass from outside is present. And for now, we here also hard code that it should only have one review. So you can write here multiple assertions that you, for example, have one assertion to make sure there is just one review, and then make sure this exact review has this review title. So having these pages in place, we can now make use of them. So therefore go to the review creation page objects WT, and what we want to do now is we want to instantiate all of them. So we can say here we want a dashboard page, we want a login page. So as Selenide also stores the WebDriver in thread local, we don't have to pass the WebDriver over and over using the public constructor or the methods. So if you would use the plain Selenium approach, you might have to pass the WebDriver instance over and over, but we don't have to do it here. This is the new review page. And then there's also the review list page. Our web test here only includes these 4 pages of our application, and we can now adjust our test here. So first, what we need after creating the book, we need an actual review title and a review content. So here I'm reusing the title and the content of our previous web test, and then we can first access our dashboard page, access the open method, which will open the browser and access the correct path. Then we can use the login page and say we want to perform a login. So username will be Duke, password will be Duke. Next comes the new review page where we can now say we want to submit a review. First comes the review title, then the review content, then the selected book, which is 0 indexed, and then the rating. So we give it here a rating of 5. And last but not least, we can use the review list page to now verify that a review exists with exactly our review title and our review content. So in this way, we make sure we fully end-to-end test the whole process. And as we still use the record all here and now use Firefox as the WebDriver, we can run it and expect a new recording to be then present afterwards to see that we refactored our test properly. So here you now see Selenium standalone Firefox. So for the other web test, we used Chrome, but here we are now using Firefox with the recording feature of test containers. Now Spring Boot application starts, our test executes and is successful. So let's wait until JUnit stops everything and our recording is part of our target folder, and we can then take a look at the video, and there it is. So we will now see here it's Firefox, so no Chrome anymore, as we now used a different capability, which is Firefox here. You will now see here the whole flow inside Firefox. So it looks a little bit different, but still we were able to perform our full process, and users are now able to submit reviews. And this web test now literally covers our ass during our continuous integration pipeline, because with this we make sure that the main application flow is working as expected and users can navigate through our application.